Do you remember when shopping for clothes meant a trip to stores that felt like part of the family? Places where you knew the aisles by heart, where back to school meant new outfits from the same trusted name your parents shopped at, where layaway plans and catalog orders were just part of life. These weren't just stores, they were Saturday destinations, first job locations, places where entire generations learned what quality meant and what fit felt like. For decades, certain names dominated every mall and main street across Canada. Everyone shopped there, everyone knew them, but one by one they vanished. Today, we're remembering 8 clothing retailers that dressed Canada for generations, then disappeared from our lives almost without warning. This is the story of 8 Canadian clothing stores, where everyone used to shop. First, there was Eaton's. For 130 years, from 1869 to 1999, Eaton's was the undisputed king of Canadian retail. If you shopped for clothes in this country, you shopped at Eaton's. You remember walking through those doors. Perfume counters greeted you near the entrance, a cloud of competing fragrances. The escalators gleamed between floors, carrying you up through departments that felt endless. The clothing sections held that particular scent of new fabric and possibility. The catalogue arrived at homes across rural Canada, like a seasonal promise. In cities, the Christmas windows downtown stopped traffic. Families made pilgrimages to see them, pressing cold hands against the glass. Eaton's understood Canadian lives. They offered house brands that fit our bodies and our winters. The layaway system meant you could afford quality. Personal shoppers knew your name, remembered your size. This was tradition made tangible. Your mother bought her wedding outfit at Eaton's. You got your first suit there. 3 generations wore Eaton's winter coats. But the 1990s brought economic shifts and American big-box competition. When the stores closed across the country in 1999, an entire nation mourned. Eaton's was proof that Canadian retail could stand on its own. But Eaton's was not the only name that defined how Canadians dressed. The second store where everyone shopped offered something entirely different. Simpson's. Simpson's was the elegant alternative, the store with a different personality entirely. From 1858 to 1991, Simpson's offered sophistication where others offered volume. The aisles felt quieter, more carefully arranged. Higher-end displays invited inspection rather than impulse. Staff remembered your name and what you had purchased last season. The shopping bags came in a particular shade of burgundy that signaled something to those who understood. This was where you went for occasions that mattered. Not everyday shopping, but the important purchases. The graduation outfit marked a milestone. The job interview suit had to convey competence and ambition. The good winter coat that would last a decade, not just survive one season. The annual Simpsons catalogue arrived thicker and glossier than others. Heavier paper. Better photography. There was a sense that shopping there meant you had made it, that you could afford quality and knew enough to recognize it. What made Simpsons distinct was the commitment to permanence. Imported British woolens that felt different under your fingers. Tailoring services that felt old world, where measurements were taken with care and alterations were included without question. Every garment carried a sense of lasting. When Simpsons merged with Sears in 1978, some of that elegance remained, but the identity began to blur, diluted by corporate efficiency. By 1991, the Simpsons name had faded completely, absorbed into something more ordinary and forgettable. There was pride in carrying a Simpsons bag. It said something about taste, about understanding the difference between adequate and excellent. It said you knew quality when you held it in your hands. While Simpsons served Eastern Canada's cities, another giant was building its empire in the west. The third destination sat thousands of kilometers west, where another retail giant owned the hearts of an entire region. Woodward's British Columbia and Alberta's retail heartbeat. From 1892 to 1993, if you grew up west of Ontario, Woodward's was your anchor store, the place that made every mall feel complete, every downtown feel legitimate. This was not a national chain trying to understand regional differences. This was a Western institution that knew the West intimately. You could spot the red and white logo blocks away. Inside, the lunch counter offered a place to rest after shopping, to refuel before the next round of browsing. The layout felt welcoming rather than overwhelming, designed for actual people rather than maximum efficiency. Woodward's understood what the region needed. Rain gear for Vancouver's endless drizzle, heavy-duty winter clothing for Edmonton's brutal cold. They dressed the West for Western weather and Western lives, with none of the guesswork that came from head offices in Toronto or Montreal. The famous $49 day sales became cultural events. People lined up before dawn, thermoses of coffee in hand, anticipation building. The energy inside those stores on sale days felt electric, communal, joyful in a way that transcended simple shopping. What made Woodward's beloved was the people, staff who stayed for decades, personal service that felt neighborly rather than transactional. The sense that Woodward's was part of the community, contributing to it, not just extracting profit and moving on. Financial troubles arrived in the late 90s. Attempts to modernize stripped away what made the stores special. When Woodward's closed in 1993, the grief felt regional and personal. For many Western Canadians, losing Woodward's hurts more than losing Eaton's. This was their store, their identity, their proof that the West could build something lasting. As the department store giants faltered, smaller chains that specialized in affordability tried to fill the gap. The fourth name served a different customer entirely, one working hard to make every dollar count. It was called Bretton's. Bretton's was the budget-conscious family's answer to department store prices. From the 1930s through the 1990s, Bretton's was not fancy and never tried to be. Just decent clothes at prices working families could manage. No pretension, no apology, just value delivered honestly. You remember the bins and racks packed tight, the treasure hunt feeling of digging through to find your size. Fluorescent lighting was harsh but honest, showing you exactly what you were getting. The plastic hangers all sounded the same when you pushed them aside, that distinctive click and scrape of efficient retail. Mothers stretched paychecks at Bretton's. You could buy school clothes for 3 kids without panic, without calculating whether you could afford lunch that week. Finding winter boots that fit and did not cost a week's wages brought relief that went beyond simple shopping. What Bretton's offered was basics done right. Cotton t-shirts in every color you could need. Denim that lasted through actual wear. Socks are sold in practical multi-packs because who buys one pair at a time? Nothing trendy, everything necessary. The shopping experience respected your reality. No frills, no maze-like layouts designed to make you wander. You knew where things were. You got in, found what you needed, got out. Efficient, respectful of your time and budget. In the 1990s, Walmart and other discount giants arrived with the same value proposition, but volumes Bretton's could never match. The variety, the buying power, the relentless expansion. Bretton's could not compete. There was dignity in Bretton's. It served working Canadians without judgment, without making poverty feel shameful. That mattered more than we realized while it was still there. While Bretton's served families with tight budgets, other chains were chasing younger shoppers and shifting trends. The fifth store targeted a completely different stage of life, where identity was still forming, and fashion felt urgent. Suzy Shire. Suzy Shire was where teenage girls and young women learnt about fashion. From 1966 through the 2020s, Suzy Shire understood something crucial about growing up female in Canada. There was a gap between teen stores and adult professional wear, and they occupied that perfect middle ground with confidence. Walk into any mall location and pop music plays overhead. Bright lighting made everything feel energetic, optimistic. Mannequins were styled with current trends, showing you how pieces could work together. The excitement of affordable fashion filled every corner. Your first going-out outfit probably came from Suzy Shire. That dress for the high school dance that made you feel beautiful and sophisticated. The blouse for your first office job that said you belonged in professional spaces. The confidence of wearing something that felt current, that felt like you, rather than who your mother thought you should be. What made it work was understanding transitions. Suzy Shire was fun but not juvenile, stylish but workplace appropriate. You could find something for a Friday night and something for Monday morning in the same small store. The stores were small enough to browse everything in 20 minutes. Staff were close to your age, understood what you were looking for without lengthy explanations. Prices matched entry-level salaries, internship wages and student budgets, but fast fashion from H&M and Forever 21 offered the same promise with a bigger selection and even lower prices. Many locations quietly closed through the 2010s, the brand limping along before final collapse. Those clothes marked transitions. First dates, job interviews, nights out with friends. Suzy Shire dressed you for becoming who you were going to be, one affordable outfit at a time. Another chain also chased trends but with a distinctly Canadian twist. The sixth chain took a different approach, focusing on comfort and natural simplicity. Cotton Ginny. From the 1970s through 2015, Cotton Ginny offered an aesthetic that felt effortless, casual but put together. Nothing too structured, nothing too loose. Clothes that felt good against your skin and looked like you had not tried too hard. The softness of the cotton they were known for set them apart. Earth tones and seasonal colors filled the racks. New fabric smelled like promise and comfort. The relaxed fit suited how Canadians actually lived when we were not at work, not performing, just being. Cotton Ginny understood Canadian life beyond the office. Weekends at the cottage, coffee with friends on Saturday morning, running errands but wanting to look decent, presentable, human. They dressed the in-between moments that actually make up most of life. What distinguished them was quality at the mid-range price point. Stuff that lasted through multiple washes without fading or stretching. Basics you could build a wardrobe around. Sweaters that became favorites for years, the ones you reached for first every time. The shopping ritual was pleasant browsing rather than urgent hunting. Stores felt calm, organized, uncomplicated. You could take your time without pressure, but Cotton Ginny got squeezed between high-end and fast fashion, neither cheap enough nor distinctive enough to survive the retail apocalypse of the 2010s. Bankruptcy came in 2015. Cotton Ginny clothes were not flashy, they were reliable, and maybe that is what we miss most. Stores that did not chase trends but just made things that worked, season after season. But some chains went even further into that comfortable, outdoorsy Canadian identity. The seventh store turned Canadian identity itself into something you could wear. Northern Reflections and Northern Getaway made the Canadian landscape into fashion. Through the 1980s and into the 2000s, these stores offered wilderness aesthetics without actual wilderness prices. Moose sweaters, fleece everything, denim shirts with pine tree patterns embroidered across the shoulders, wearable Canadian that announced exactly where you were from. These stores capitalized on pride in Canadian identity at exactly the right cultural moment. You could literally wear your nationalism. Tourists loved it as authentic souvenirs. Canadians loved it ironically at first, then discovered they loved it unironically. It was comfortable, and it was ours. The stores felt designed to evoke a landscape, forest greens and earth tones everywhere. Displays featured canoe and camping gear aesthetics, even though you were buying mall clothes. Music felt folksy and upbeat, vaguely outdoorsy without committing to anything specific. What they sold was not just clothes but a lifestyle story. You were not buying a fleece pullover, you were buying a membership in an idea of Canada. The cottage, the campfire, the North as a concept and feeling. The appeal was simple, affordable, comfortable, distinctive. You could spot a Northern Reflections sweater from across a room. That was part of the point. Recognition, belonging. But the aesthetic became dated. What felt fresh and patriotic in the 90s felt kitschy by the 2010s. Stores gradually closed or were absorbed into other brands that diluted the identity. We laugh at those moose sweaters now, but there was something genuine in wanting to wear your place on your sleeve, to carry your identity in fabric and pattern. And then there were the chains that promised fashion authority, that told us what we should be wearing. The eighth and final name took clothing seriously, because some moments demanded nothing less than perfection. Tip Top Tailors. Tip Top Tailors was where Canadian men learned about suits. From 1909 through 2009 in its original form, walking into Tip Top meant you were serious, about a job, about an occasion, about presenting yourself properly to the world. The smell hit you first. Woolen sizing, that particular scent of quality fabric and professional tailoring. Measuring tape snapped with authority. You felt the weight of the jacket fabric between your fingers, substantial and real. Mirrors everywhere reflected who you were becoming, not just who you were. Your father took you to Tip Top for your first real suit. Graduation, wedding, job interview. These were milestones that required proper dress, and Tip Top understood the gravity of each moment. What they offered was expertise without condescension. Staff who knew seams and breaks and how a shoulder should sit. Alterations were included, not an afterthought. You felt taken care of by people who understood their craft and respected yours. The ritual mattered as much as the product. Being measured felt like initiation into something larger than yourself. The wait for alterations built anticipation. Picking up your finished suit was an event, a small ceremony of transformation. When Dialex took ownership, things changed. Quality questions emerged. The personal service eroded into something more transactional. Bankruptcy came in 2009, though the name survived in reduced form elsewhere. Tip Top represented something about Canadian masculinity. Not flashy, not fashion-forward, just proper, respectful, put together. We have lost that standard along with the stores, and maybe we are poorer for it. These 8 names dressed millions of Canadians through decades of change. These were not just stores. They were institutions that understood Canadian lives in ways we took for granted until they vanished. What we lost goes beyond convenient shopping. The expertise, the personal service, the sense of permanence, the regional pride. These stores were woven into family rituals, into community identity, into the rhythm of Canadian life across decades. Economic realities explain their disappearance. American chains, online shopping, fast fashion, and changing behavior. The world moved on because the world always does. But the sensory memories remain. The shopping bags with distinctive logos, the particular smell of each store, the feeling of walking in and knowing exactly where everything was. Which of these stores do you remember? What did you buy there? That first suit from Tip Top. School shopping at Eaton's every September. Finding a deal at Breton's. Saturday mall trips that always included these names. These memories are shared. Thousands of Canadians dressed the same way, shopped the same places, and carried the same nostalgia. If this brought back memories, leave a comment below. Like and subscribe for more stories about the Canada we remember. These stores remind us of who we used to be. Remembering them keeps that part of us alive.